This is a video about some very specific things about how the left hand approaches the guitar, assuming you're a right-handed guitar player. We're really talking about something that achieves two main goals. One is your health, the health of your hands as well as the rest of you, and the efficiency with which you can do things with the left hand. Because generally people just have too much going on with their left hand, too much tension, or doing some weird, maybe positioning themselves in a way that really slows them down. So it makes you have to, use more muscle and put in more effort to play something often. And that can kind of screw up your, the health of your hands, or at minimum just cause pain and cramping. So a couple little things about this. One, I personally have a lot of experience with this subject because I've had awful issues with my hands, from bad technique, bad practice habits. I've seen many doctors, had many different rounds of physical therapy, as well as some study of the Alexander technique, which is a very interesting thing. So what I'm telling you is from not just my own experience, but from what doctors and physical therapists and occupational therapists have told me, as well as my own independent study into guitar technique, especially regarding classical guitar technique, which those guys have a lot more figured out in terms of the use of the left hand than the jazz, rock, or blues players usually do. Anyway, so the first thing is that people often start with a very wrong approach to just how the fingers meet the strings, which is that they're usually thinking that you just gotta squeeze on the neck, and you just grab onto the neck with your left hand, and you squeeze on those notes, and you squeeze with enough pressure that you can finally get that note to ring out so that it doesn't buzz. It's like if I don't squeeze, then I get that, and then if I give it a good enough squeeze, I get the note. That's really bad. It's really going to lead to all those problems I was mentioning before. And it's a subtle thing, but what I would recommend you do is you think that you're not squeezing with your hand, but you're giving a gentle pull with your arm. And that might look a little bit like this. So I'm maybe putting, let's say, my ring finger on the 7th fret of the D string, and I'm not going to actually play the note. I'm just going to put my finger there, and I've got my thumb off the neck just for this demonstration, and I've got the guitar stabilized on my right side, so it's not going anywhere. I don't need the left hand to hold the guitar neck up and make sure the guitar neck stays in place. That's being done with my right side. So I'm here and I'm placed on the string, and I'm just going to give a little pull with my arm. You can't even see it. If the string was much further away from the neck, it might look like this. Kind of like if you ever do weightlifting or anything, it's a lot like a row, like a seated row. We're not using all that muscle, but if you think about how strong you are how much you can pull when you're sitting like this, and then compare it to having to just move this string just a tiny little bit. It's what, a millimeter or however much it is. You've got all this muscle and all this strength to move the string just a tiny little bit, and then I pull the string against the fretboard, and I get my note that way. Then the thumb just has some gentle support on the back. I am using, and I would definitely recommend you use your thumb, but it's not all about pinching with the fingers and the thumb. People usually think of it that way, and then you're just using your finger extensor muscles, and you're just doing this to do all the work, really. When I'm saying I'm going to use my whole back and my whole body to play each note. I've got my whole arm, and if I'm playing a chord, I'm not just grabbing that chord with my hand. I've got my whole back, my whole body to help me get that chord. So So what you should do is take scales you're doing, or this exercise is a good one. A lot of you might be familiar with this, or we may have already done it, where we just are going to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6. That's, what you should do, and this is what I did, and it was very helpful when I was recovering from my terrible issues from bad technique and everything. Go through an exercise like that, or a scale, at a very, very slow tempo. I'm talking like quarter notes at 40 beats per minute, or whole notes at 40 beats per minute. Force yourself to do it very slow. With each note, ask yourself a few questions. Is my thumb giving some gentle support on the back of the neck? Am I holding any extra tension in the back of my hand, or my wrist, or my arm? And am I putting any more effort than needed to get the notes to sound out? Because for me, on this guitar, at this dynamic level, that's all the pressure I need to make it not buzz. If I squeeze in any more than that, then I'm wasting energy, and the note will actually go sharp. So you gotta go slow. I mean, it would be actually a lot slower than that. And just make sure you're good. And if everything feels good, then you can maybe do a little faster. But this isn't about playing it quick or even making it sound particularly great. It's just about making sure you're not muscling through any of those notes, or working any harder than you have to, or using the wrong muscles, really. A few other things. I should have actually started the video by saying that the hand is actually just a really small part of the whole thing in terms of the pain prevention, really. But I don't want to make this a 40-minute long video on talking about the back and the neck and everything. But I'll just say this, that you want to make sure you got nothing extra holding on, no holding beyond what's needed to just keep yourself up in your mouth, in your neck, in your back, in your shoulders. And when you're doing this really slow stuff, you can scan yourself and be like, well, how does my back feel right now? How do my hips feel right now? Because especially for those of you who are really getting serious about playing guitar and putting a lot of practice time, if you're doing even an hour a day, but you're like really tensed up that whole time, and you're bent over and your neck is tight, it increases the odds that you're going to cause problems, and it just doesn't feel that great, right, while you're sitting playing. So other little things, make sure the top joint in your fingers has a little bend in it. So you don't want to flatten any of those out unless you're intentionally barring or doing a roll. You want those fingers to not fly too far away from the fretboard. And here's a little demonstration. Another thing that people kind of mess up on quite a lot. I usually actually, in an in-person lesson, I usually do this with my feet, but I'll do it here, and you can kind of see. Let's say that we're using these two fingers. The way people often think about how the fingers work on the fretboard is they're going like, okay, I used that finger. Okay, now it's time for that finger. Like, let's say if you're just switching between these two. Okay, here we go with that one. Here we go with that one. I want you to think about this as a concept, not as an actual movement, but just as a concept. What if it was more like this? I've got weight on this finger, and then I'm just going to transfer that weight over that finger. Just back and forth, right? Back and forth between the fingers. Now, I'm not saying that I'm actually going to shift over my hand as I change fingers. It's about where the pressure is coming from. Okay? So I'm saying, instead of going, let's say I'm using my ring and my pinky, because those are tough ones. Instead of going ring finger, pinky finger, ring finger, pinky finger, ring finger, pinky. It's going to take forever. It's going to hurt. It's way more work than you need to. Like I demonstrated in the very beginning, I've got my whole back, my whole body helping me to play this one note. It's not just my little ring finger, my little weak ring finger. And then I'm going to transfer that weight over to my pinky. I mean, obviously I do move the fingers. It's more of a concept that I'm trying to get you to see. A little faster than I really can do it. Notice how little they're moving. And it's pretty light. It's not really a strain. I'm just passing the weight back and forth. So another visualization trick for this, or not visualization, just a conceptual thing. It's kind of silly, but think that there's a little, when you're playing one note at a time, that is, not chords, think that there's a little red orb at the finger that's playing the note. And you're passing that red orb of energy to, to whichever finger gets to play the note. So it's not like, okay, this one finger's job, then that's done. Then use the other finger. That would maybe look like this. It's kind of like one finger at a time, right? I'm saying we're just passing that back and forth. It's the same amount of, it's roughly the same amount of weight on each note. It's very smooth. Now, so when I'm doing something very quick, it's not, I mean, imagine if I was doing that and I was going, what, this finger, then that finger, then this finger. Now I can do it loud, and I just have to give a little more weight to counterbalance, or for lack of a better word, the pressure I'm giving with the pick. I have to do a little more pressure with my left hand, a little more pull, a little more power. But all the same principles. It's still power from my back and my arm, and it's the transfer of pressure between the two fingers. Not great fingering. It's quick, and if it was, and it's pretty light. It's not too tiring to do that. And so the last thing is similarly with chords. A bar chord, an open chord, a complex chord, a simple chord. You don't want to be grabbing that chord. Get your hand, the process in slow motion, I think, should look like this. And if you're struggling with this stuff, then this is how you should do it, just very, very slowly. Whatever the chord is, so let's say it's this. You place your hand there. You don't apply any pressure. You're just there. You're hovering above those strings. You give a little pull with your arm. You give a little extra pressure with your thumb on the back. Just enough to get the chord out. And you got your whole body, your whole back helping you out. You don't grab it, So those are some really good things, some big picture but very basic things to start implementing with left-hand technique and thinking about. And that doesn't all get, if you've been in some bad habits, it can't all just change in a day, so it takes some time. I also want to put in the asterisk that there are certain styles of music where different ways of holding the guitar may be better. Like, for example, if we're doing like certain muting techniques and bending techniques in like blues, like Stevie Ray Vaughan, do require us to kind of wrap the thumb around and grab on a different way to do bending. We'll talk about that, as it comes up. At this point, I do not have a video on those techniques, and I might do that. But even then, some of the same principles apply, even though we might hold the guitar a little differently.